Warcast is live.
We are live.
Professional. 5 seconds in. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Three Amigos, the Triple Crown, the webinar thingy type podcasty thingy that doesn't quite know what it's officially called. I'm here with John Paul Long, and myself. And today we're going to talk about a myriad of exciting things to do with estate agency marketing, mindset, and just being better people in general. So, gentlemen, without further ado, Paul, how's your week been? Or actually, how's your month been since we last spoke?
The month's been very good, and I was very lucky. I actually got to meet Mr. JP, didn't I?
Yes.
A very short period of time, but actually, rather than on a screen, I actually got to meet him in person again.
So I was at the Property Mark conference, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was really nice to actually meet people, you know, actually face to face rather than online. So I got to see loads and loads of people that I've spoken to on the phone, on Zoom, and met them for the first time. So I really enjoyed that day. It sort of made total sense while we're back at events.
Did you have a stand? Did you have a stand then? Did you?
Yes. Involved, yeah. So involved in a stand and obviously that, but also talking to people as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say I met loads of people for the very first time. You know, Tony Morris came up to us, so I met him. Lucy Noonan for the first time. Reconnected with some great people and stuff. And yeah, it was a really good conference, and the after party was pretty decent as well. So. Yeah, the speakers, I've got to say, Gerald Ratner, for somebody who lost £500 million, I've never known anyone who can take the piss out of himself like he did. He was hilarious. Absolute highlight of the talking for me. Dame Kelly Holmes was great and inspirational, and you know, Olympic gold medal double winner and stuff. Gerald Ratner, I was just pissing myself laughing. He was really funny and took like just self-deprecating sort of humor, just took the mick out of himself. You know, when he went to see the bank manager and he went, "You've lost £500 million," and he went, "Oh, that doesn't sound good." And you know, just tiny little things. And he was just, to be fair, there was no message you could have taken out of it what you will. He didn't say it. And the moral of the story is, he just took the piss out of himself and went, "Great, thanks for listening, I'm off," and then just went. It was great. It was really good.
Do you think that is just how he is, or do you think actually what happened changed his view on life?
Well, I've got a bit of inside information because I've got one foot in the property investment camp, and he's good mates with somebody I know, Rob Moore, quite well. And Rob speaks very highly of him, and he said he's one of the kindest souls that he's ever met, and he's just such a really down-to-earth sort of a guy. And apparently, when he lost it all, his perspective did change an awful lot. I mean, I think he openly admits it himself, although he didn't quite. I've heard him say it elsewhere, but he didn't quite go to say it at the event. That he sunk into a depression. You know, he's spending 5, 6, 7 days just in bed, and he said that at the Property Mark event.
Yeah,
but he was all business, shareholders, investment. You know, maximizing return, maximizing investment ROI. And then afterwards, he kind of changed. And I think you need that. I mean, we always talk about something goes on in somebody's life, and then a light bulb moment happens. And I think that was it.
That is a public humbling, probably the most high-profile public humbling. Because remember Ratners? I remember as a kid, they were everywhere. Every little town you go to in London had a Ratners.
Jerry, he was responsible for 50% of the, I want to say 50% of the jewellery market in Europe at one point. It was.
Did he own Elizabeth Duke in Argos?
Sorry?
Did he own Elizabeth Duke? Don't you remember the Elizabeth Duke Argos concession?
Yeah, I do.
We were poor, but even we look at that and go, we ain't buying from there.
Yeah. I don't know where. I mean, I remember them. I don't. He did say the names, but it's like 3 or 4 of today's modern jewelers came off the back of him. It's a little bit like Standard Oil, Rockefeller, JD Rockefeller. Like, you know, Chevron, Texaco, all even BP, one of the BPs, they all came from one original massive company, and I don't think people realise that. But he was really good. The guy I know you want to talk about later on, but the chap Dave Garland, who spoke about AI, he was exceptional as well.
What's his background, that Dave Garland?
He's somebody who I know. I don't know him very well, but we're working with him at Property Mark. I can't say too much, but we're working with the company that he represents. So he is a managing partner for 21st Century Ventures, which is the investment arm of the American Realtors, or the National American Realtors sort of membership organization. They've got 250,000 members, right? 250,000. They're immense, huge business. And they make so much money off all their members. They've got a fund that they want to invest, and they invest in basically prop tech. So he's all his life he's been like mergers and acquisitions of the prop tech kind and stuff like that. He's a very, very super switched on guy. And his presentation, albeit very American, it was. Did you see it, Paul? It was very, very polished, like to the point where
you had to stand up.
Yeah. So he came in. He put his hands over his bits and bobs, and he just put his head down. He waited for it to go quiet, and he just went, "The future." So it was very. It's like an American attraction type of thing, like at a Disney. But he was great, and he definitely knows his stuff.
Yeah. See, that's my thing. I ain't standing up. Honestly, I'm like, no, don't know.
Yeah.
I probably would. How many people were there? There was a big crowd, weren't there? 1,800?
Right. 1,100, I think, all in all.
Was it? Right. So that's a big crowd. Was there anyone, and this question is for both of you, yeah? You know, sometimes you're in a supermarket and you see someone you don't really want to speak to. And you think, hold on. And you sort of, like, you might dive down the frozen food section. You might hide behind the sort of croissants that are on special offer.
Yeah,
Was there anyone there that you sort of see him coming and thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
When
JP showed up, it was
you would just see me bobbing across the thing with top of everybody else. No, Simon Whale, I tried to avoid him, but I couldn't get away from him.
He's omnipresent. He's just there, isn't he? He's like, yeah. So who? Right. So sorry, I've got to go back to you, JP, because you've had some big news this week involving moving into somewhere. Did you want to tell us about that?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to, first of all?
Yeah. Jem has kicked us out. I'm in a one-bedroom bedsit at the minute. So no. So we've Prospector Pro, which is obviously, unless you've been living in the cave, that's my new sort of venture. We just moved into some nice shiny offices in there's a tech district, believe it or not, in Middlesbrough. Wow. I didn't even know there was a tech district in Middlesbrough, but they've spent tens of millions of pounds on building all these huge, lovely buildings that are just housing tech and creative people. So yeah, myself and a couple of others, we moved it, and I've never moved like that in about a decade. Like, you know, myself lugging up chairs and tables and putting up. I mean, I'm IKEA's worst nightmare, and IKEA is my worst nightmare. But we're putting up desks and tables and stuff. It was backbreaking work. First world problems there.
You know what you need? You need Derek, the flat pack man. We've got a guy around here called Derek, the flat pack man. He's coming to the house Monday actually to do something. He will go to IKEA for you, pick it up, bring it here,
put it up.
That's it.
Yeah,
and he's always busy. He's always busy.
That is definitely a very good sort of opportunity for somebody. I wish I'd known about this last week or this week.
I bet there will be a Derek of. Are you T side? Is it T side there?
Yeah, T side. So TS. Yeah, the TS postcode.
There will be a T side version of Derek the Flat Pack Man.
You can see the Riverside Stadium out of one of the windows, so I'm putting a blackout blind there so I don't see it.
Yeah, I would.
How far is it from your house? Is it far to travel?
No, it's not actually. It's probably about 6 miles, 7 miles. It takes about 15 minutes because you've got to go through, you know, Middlesbrough town centre and stuff. But yeah, it's a beautiful building. Like there's one company there, and I always get the name wrong. They started in COVID with about 120 employees, and they've got up to 450 now, just because of COVID. And they do animation and videos, and they're doing work with some companies in Hollywood and all sorts. And you know, you've got some T-siders, you know, dealing with blooming Pixar and Disney and stuff like that. It's crazy. It's mental.
But isn't that the great thing about? I know technology comes with pros and cons, but how people in Teesside can work with people in Hollywood
Unbelievable,
instantly, back and forth. The sharing of ideas and information. That's one thing I like about it.
Well, this was like a 10-year plan. The guy who was showing us around the building said about 10 years ago they had a plan of, Teesside, the old ICI shipbuilding shipyards, quite a bit of unemployment, low-income families. So they said, right, well, we've got to attract. It's not about building, your little mini metro centres or your Trafford centres or anything like that. It's like, how do we get industry there? So they saw the petrochemical was dying a death and it was getting outsourced. Engineering, manufacturing, going to the East European countries. But they said tech is where it's going to be, and it's going to make such a vast difference.
Was this a council? Was this a council run? Who was the initiative, or was it private?
Well, the university got involved. So the university, Middlesbrough University, is one of the top universities for AI in the UK. It's unbelievable. We're actually speaking to them to try and we can get a bit of what they call a knowledge transfer, where we go to them, tell them what we're doing, we get some help and whatnot, and maybe look to speak to one of the professors to come on on our advisory board. So the university is big on that. I'm big on tech and AI in particular. But then also they decided, and I'm sure it was lottery funded or grant funded, where they started to build these. They build Boho 1. I don't know where Boho comes from. Boho 2, 3, and then we're in Boho 5, and they're just purely for creative and tech companies. So you've got these typical, and it is stereotypical, but you've got these like geeks and nerds, and there's a couple of heavy metal headbangers walking around, and then you've got me. I'm the oldest by about 10 years. Older than them. Probably think I'm one of the college professors or something. But yeah, it's exciting and nervous at the same time moving into somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So what are we kicking off with first, Paul?
I think the AI, obviously just mentioned, there would be a good place to start. It's a big topic at the moment. I know, Jerry, you've got a few thoughts on it at the moment.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, I put an article out today about AI, where I gave Prospector Pro a shout. Actually, JP's, because there's an ethical element to that I think all AI needs to aim for. We might get away with the 5-10 years of work that we'll have, but what about children? We're, as human beings, we're a species that we think too short term, but you can see the benefits of thinking long term just by what you got told about, these guys saying, right, industry's gone here, we need to think down the line. So that's why I asked, was it council or private? Because remember, that's smart thinking, isn't it? On behalf of the area of Teesside as a whole. That's very good. So my main point was, I saw an article last week, and it was so obvious that it was ChatGPT. It leapt out. It might as well have said, and I said this in a post, it may as well have said, I've just been written by a robot. Like 1% lazy estate agent, 99% an American robot. Because it said, and I wrote it down, so you had curb, C-U-R-B, when we use curb, K-E-R-B. So curb appeal was spelled in the American way. You had all the Zs. And I was playing around with ChatGPT yesterday for some ideas. And for some reason, it loves the word demystify. It's really weird, honestly. Like every sort of like article idea I was suggesting, it would come up with a headline saying demystify. So my point is, ChatGPT, great for agents with no marketing budget. Yeah. But you need to learn how to prompt it. And prompting is a bit of a skill. There's a great podcast Tom McGee shared with me. Guy's called something Altucher. Is it Simon Altucher? Funny-haired American fella. Yeah. And he speaks to a guy who is like an AI ChatGPT prompt expert. So that's worth listening to. But I'd urge estate agents just to be, it needs editing. Don't be so lazy that you think you can go, write me an article about how to create a home office and then just copy and paste it. It needs a bit of time. It needs 20 minutes playing around with at least, well, maybe not at least, but it needs a bit of time to play around with. You can't just copy and paste. You need to. So
GPT, if you look at it like this, it's just a tool. It's a little bit like you get a fantastic camera, but if the person using that fantastic camera is lazy, and doesn't edit the photographs after, you're gonna get shit photographs.
Very good analogy. Very good analogy. Yeah. Spot on.
The other one that I had was that, look at it as it's like your surgical team. It's like it will help you, but you still need to be the person in charge, what's going on. But what you're saying about it, Jerry, spot on. The editing's there afterwards. So the process with ChatGPT is the context. You've got to give the ChatGPT as much context as possible rather than just putting one line into it. So,
and you can expand. You can talk about tone. I want the tone to sound friendly for a UK audience. I know you can set word count limits on sentences, which creates. Do you know what I mean? So if you know what you're doing, you can get good stuff out of it.
And I was on a webinar the other day, and they took it a step back even further by giving it an actual mother prompt. And the mother prompt was where you write out exactly who you are, who you serve, what you do, and even what your sort of main thoughts are. And you give that each time. So before it even starts, it's got that mother prompt before you go into context of what you want it to do. So there's a lot there to learn, but if you do use it, it's really powerful. I'm hearing that it's saving already, for people who know how to use it, 16 hours a week. It's saving people straight away who know how to use it. So,
and the thing is, as well, we've got to be, AI is much more than just ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like, JP, your new venture, that's ethical AI. We use something called Fireflies for our meeting notes, and it just sits in the background. Like if we have a Zoom meeting, it will. We now know how to do it. So if we have tasks in the team, we'll go, right, task number 1 is blah, 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 blah. Fireflies, the AI, will create a list of our tasks. So a human doesn't have to do it. Do you see what I mean? And it transcribes it. It's just all clever stuff. But main point is just don't be lazy. Do you know what I mean? If it makes you lazy, it makes you the same as your bog standard rivals. The really good agents are, if they are using it, it's probably for ideas rather than pure content creation. And they're using it for things like maximizing time efficiencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But actually, what, can I just say one thing? If you're really bored and you just want to sort of play with its mind a bit, the great robot in the sky, just say to it, just randomly, your mum is a slag.
And then your lights start flickering and your TV blows out.
yeah, just do that. I've done that when I was just like, he said demystify, and I just went boom like that.
It is. Go on, mate.
I was going to say on Property Mark, Paula saw this. ChatGPT is the company that has got to 100 million users faster than any other software ever. Google, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. It did 100 million users in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe TikTok, I took a picture of it, but it wasn't a very good picture. I believe TikTok was next with about 9 months or something.
Yeah, frightening. And but they're moving so quick, and then now they've obviously got version 4, which we use, and that connects to the internet. So there was the issue that it was only up to date to 2021, I think it is. I always get the date wrong with the content that was in ChatGPT. But now with the 4 version, you've got the sort of the things that you can connect to it, and one of the things is that it can read the internet. So you can now bring it pretty much up to date and send it to look at your landing pages and websites. So yeah, really moving on quick. Be interesting to see where we all are in a year's time.
Yeah. Well, funny, there was another good quote when it said, AI won't close your business, but your competitors using AI will close your business.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, agents not using AI will lose out to agents using AI.
Yeah,
that's it. So it won't replace you, but yeah, I think it's just the efficiency, isn't it? The speed that people using it will be able to do.
I think as well, idea generation. It's so good for idea generation, like ChatGPT. I'm not sure about the others there, but if you tap into it, I need 10. I put into it. I need 10 ideas to fundraise for a girls' football team. I even put the area, and it came up with 10 really good ideas. Some of them were a bit Americanish. I wish they'd lose that American. Why has everything got to be Americanized? It's annoying.
There's some amazing things you can do. One thing I did see the other day, which this is how quick it's moving. So there's Chrome extensions now coming out left, right, and centre to work with ChatGPT, and everything's going to, with regards to content, it's going to be based around long form video content, where you'll then be able to literally take a YouTube video, get ChatGPT to take all the notes out of it, so all the speak, turn it into Word, and then it will write a blog article, then it will create you a Facebook advert, then it will create you reels from it. So quite scary how quick it's all moving.
It's interesting, that one, because the copyright issues. Do you know what I mean? We're not ready for this. As humans, we're not ready. I was listening to a podcast today that was fascinating. He said the reason why people are going towards podcasts is because our brains are frazzled. And if we know we've got 3 hours of Joe Rogan, we can almost settle in and think, right, I'm not going to be disturbed with a TikTok, like reels or stuff like that, which I think makes perfect sense. I know that my favourite podcast now, 1.5 hours, 2 hours. I listen to podcasts more than I watch the telly. I don't watch the traditional telly at all.
Really?
I can, like BBC One, like mainstream. Well, I don't like that mainstream media because there's negative connotations. BBC One, BBC Channel.
I'm only watching that. I find out who this presenter is, then I'm back off it again. As soon as I find out who the latest one is, I'm turning it off.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, we don't want to libel ourselves or so. JP, you're going to teach us how to up our game.
Yeah, I think upping our game and constantly striving to improve, I think, is so important. I see and hear and read and watch a lot of agents who are just quite content doing what they're doing and stuff, and that's fine. But I think if you're standing still, you're going backwards, because even if you're performing and even if you're doing the same things what you did last year, the majority of the rest of the market isn't. So therefore, de facto, you are going backwards. So you've constantly got to evolve. It's a little bit like if you just run the 100 meters at 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds every year, you might not be going backwards, but your time is getting worse and you're dropping down the rankings because of everyone else is getting faster. And it's exactly the same with business, with agency, that you might think, oh, I can't be bothered to listen to another, Jerry's video or Paul's webinar or JP's course or whatever. I can't be bothered, Chris Watkin this or whatever. But you have to, because you might pick up one or two little things. Now, upping your game isn't just always about like listening and watching and learning. It's more importantly about implementing. Because again, there's a lot of people, course junkies, watch everything, listen to everything. Again, talk a great game. Your social media is fantastic for telling people, but things like Companies House don't lie. When you can see people's profit and you can see the balance sheets and all that sort of stuff.
It's so interesting when you do that, isn't it? Like you think of someone, you look at them online and think, hold on, I'm going to have a look at your company's house. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it doesn't tell you the full picture. It can be up to 8 months behind, but then it's again, I mean, I've had debates with people with claims, and, I've said, oh, well, your company's house doesn't reflect this, and go, well, it's 18 months behind. And I says, well, it's during 3 months, mate. I look forward to reading it when you've got to put it in. And sure enough, when it pops up, it's BS. It's BS. But don't compare yourselves to others, because I think when you do that, who said comparison is the thief of joy? If was it Bill? Probably. It sounds as though it was. So yeah, it's just constantly about upping your game, but implementing it as well. And we are going, and we are sort of at the crest of it, going into a bit of a difficult time at the minute. I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff like some people have predicted. I think 6, 12, 18 months, a little bit tougher market, a little bit less property transactions, house prices. Obviously, they're going to correct, but that doesn't mean that is not a reason why you can't sell houses. So long as houses are being sold, it's up to you to try and get into that market and improve and increase your market share. And the only way you can do that by is implementing the stuff that you've learned.
It's so interesting you say about the falling off the cliff, because when COVID happened, there was people, this is it, it's finished. Oh. Then when we came out of COVID, the bubble's going to burst really quickly, which it didn't. And now times are tougher and more challenging. Yeah, it's amazing how the really, really good agents never fall off that cliff. They
No.
might go walking near it and they have to make cuts, or they have to do different stuff, but then that sort of feeds into what you said. They evolve.
Yeah.
So this falling off the cliff crack.
Well, you have to. The only time an agent should be really worried, or agents, the industry should be really worried, is when nobody wants to buy or sell a house. As long as people want to buy or sell a house, there is a need. It's a supply and demand. Are we oversaturated with agents? There's an argument to say we possibly are. You know, a lot of agents don't have a huge amount of stock. But instead of twisting and moaning, just be better. Literally, just head down, arse up, and just be better at what you do. The amount of people, good agents, who don't have a perfect market appraisal process, who literally just say, I just turn up and I do what I do. And then you question about, why do you do this and why do you do that? And it's the old culture argument. I don't know. It's just the way I've always done it. And you're like, well, you know, if we twist, we tweak this and we tweak that and we add this in and you deliver this and you come across like, says, you know, 5%. That's all I'm asking. Can you improve your conversion risk by 5%? Yes. Brilliant. So if we're adding more in at the top and you're converting more, that 5% all of a sudden is 12%. What does 12% in pounds, shillings and pence look like? Could be an extra 80, 90, 100 grand a year just by tweaking one procedure in your business. But people don't think like that. They just do what they do on an ongoing basis and go, well, it's working so far. It's just, we're doing okay. We're doing average, so I don't want to tweak it. You can't go ahead like that. You can't be in business from a long period. The businesses that go bust are not necessarily the bad ones. Well, it's the old saying. If you, so who was it? Darwin said something about adapting to change. The survival of the fittest wasn't by the strongest or the fastest, the ones who adapted to change. It's exactly the same.
Shakespeare.
So there's someone's just made a comment. It doesn't show the name, but they said no unique selling points anymore. You just have to do the basics much better than everyone else. I think that's a really good point in our industry, is that actually there isn't a lot that we can do to really to stand out. So what we need to do is exactly what they've said there, is you have to do the basics much better than everyone else.
I kind of agree, but I disagree at the same time. I think sorry, I don't know who's posted that. It is a very good point, by the way. I think they're right. But you've got to come across as if you've got a market a differential selling point.
Yeah.
So if you just say, well, look, we're the same as everybody else, they're going to go for the cheapest. Yeah. So in reality, there might not be a hell of a lot different, or you might not. You won't have access to anything different to your competitors. Oh, it's Darren. Hello, mate. You've got to actually come across as if you're different. So you know, I know Darren very well, and his wife and his children. They come across and they say, right, well, we've been here for this long and this is our marketing and we can give you better marketing than everybody else, and it's marketing. If your marketing is better than everybody else and your messaging is better than everybody else, you will be perceived to have that differentiating factor. Therefore, price isn't an issue.
Yeah, no, I agree. Totally agree. Good points. Some good points.
It's you, Paul.
Yeah, it's me. I'm just looking at the list.
Paul likes on Paul. That's why I was JP just staring at you.
Find someone else to pass it on to. So yeah, couple of things we were just talking about before we came on here about Facebook's new platform. Obviously, competition to Twitter. Threads. So if you don't know, obviously Facebook is taking on Twitter with a platform very similar to it. I haven't played around with it a lot yet, but I understand it is their sort of main direction is to compete with Twitter. A lot of people tend to ignore these new platforms, thinking they won't hang around. But one thing I will say is Facebook's been very, very clever, or Meta's been very, very clever here. They've made it that if you've got an Instagram account, you can open up your new Threads account very quickly by using your Instagram profile. So, and connecting it to your Instagram profile. And the reason they've done that is because straight which obviously other platforms have never had that luxury. So it's quite clever marketing. So what I would say with that platform is what we've always seen with Meta is that if they introduce a new platform and you use it, you get some absolutely amazing coverage for free. So exposure on those platforms is going to be unbelievable for the first sort of 6 to 12 months, just because they want everyone to see it. They want friends and family to engage with it. They want people to see it everywhere. So I would jump on as quick as possible, benefit from that early coverage, and then obviously as we go forward and explore it, we'll share ideas on it.
You know what though? If it's like Twitter, I don't know any agents getting good results out of Twitter.
No,
I think they'll take. Yeah, I'd say I haven't played around with it enough, but I think knowing Meta, they'll take the weak points and they'll look at how they can sort of improve and overcome those to. And I think that's a good point. I totally agree. Twitter's definitely a dying platform, but there's obviously some good points to Twitter, and there has been a lot of people who've used it.
Is it really a dying platform? Because when you listen to the some figures from Muskie Boy, it's people are coming back and it's making.
You know what though? The interesting thing about Twitter that you've got to bear in mind, why it's so high profile as well, is because a lot of media people use it.
Yeah.
So they're in the business of playing up stuff. So I know a lot of journalists will find all their stories off it. I don't know how people go looking for a house on it, to be honest.
No, I definitely don't think it's for our industry. But I think why people like it is Elon. He's absolutely batshit crazy, but he's a big proponent of freedom of speech. And Facebook haven't got a great reputation for that. So it depends on what you want to use it for.
And the interesting thing about Elon Musk, I was listening to a podcast and they said this about him. He's not afraid to fail in real time.
No.
He'll make a decision last week and think, oh no, that weren't right. So we're going to change that. Where, others, we've made that decision. We've got to stick to it because we've gone out there. And he seems to just be like, it's fine. We'll do something different.
What I would say is that one of the reasons that Meta will be tapping into this is because it's data for them. It's data points. Because as you what you said there, John, was that it is that freedom of speech. I think people tend to say a lot more on Twitter than they would on any other platform. So Facebook will be using all that data to its benefit for the algorithm. So it will improve the performance of the algorithm further. It will provide more data points, but also it's going to provide another platform for adverts as well.
Yeah. And I suppose if it's less toxic than Twitter, because if it's your Instagram profile, which are normally real people, aren't they? But with Twitter, you often get people bots or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine, if Threads is real people are less likely to be toxic or snipey than people that can just hide behind. It's a bit like, the Pi forums.
Yeah.
In fairness to them, I think they've really improved that. But, there used to just be a cesspit of just people just going, no, this is rubbish. That's rubbish. What's your name? Oh, I don't know. Agent 0000. Oh, shut up, you idiot. Just stand up and put your name to it if you believe it. It's true, though, isn't it? If you believe it that much, put your name to it.
Yeah. And they have that benefit as well, which they've just started really tapping into, is that multi-channel and cross-channel connection with obviously Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and now obviously this platform. So probably 3-5 years ago, they were very keeping those platforms separate, Meta. So they wouldn't really allow Instagram to post on Facebook vice versa. Or now they're trying to really sort of make everything, overlap. So they've got that benefit where you'll probably be able to do stuff on that new platform and then share it at some point to your other platforms to get more exposure and get people involved. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that goes.
Cool.
The other thing, really quick, I've had a lot of people asking me recently, how often should they be posting? And you probably get that asked quite a lot as well with your content, don't you, Jerry?
Yeah.
How often?
His balance often varies.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry.
It's the AI.
Yeah.
It's something I get asked a lot, so I thought I'd cover that as well. So I think one of the main things is that you've got to be consistent with whatever you decide. If you post 2 to 3 times a week or 5 to 7 times a week, you've got to be consistent with it, because those platforms, all social media platforms, is what I'm talking about here. One thing they do love is consistency. But there's an argument to it as well on the basis that if you're going to be consistent, it's got to be at a level where, you know, the quality's there. You know, it's got to be quality over quantity. So you want to get a balance where you're able to create content which is quality content, and also if you put under pressure, I think it was Christopher Watkins or someone mentioned a good point. You know, if you do get to a stage where you are put under pressure, can you continue that consistency? But it is about creating content that's quality. So we're talking about spending time brainstorming the topics, just like you said with the AI, Jerry, you know, making sure that it's not just put out there just because you feel that you've got to fill the spaces on social media. It's got to be stuff that you've taken time to research, you know, brainstorm those topic ideas, create compelling content, and also have the time to engage with people who are actually showing interest in your content. So whatever you do,
important point, by the way. That what you've just said there is a really important point, because I sometimes see, and I've been guilty of it myself, someone will make a comment because you're so busy you don't get back to them. So basically, it's like somebody walking up to you in the real world going, "Oh, I thought that was really good," or "I thought that was really bad," and you just go, walk off.
I agree, and it's social.
Yeah, it's a really good point about like reacting to if somebody's responded. Yeah, and I think as well, what you're saying there, there's a thing as well called content cadence, where it's not just putting out articles, it's not just putting out property listings. So you need a rhythm. So you might have a couple of, like an ideal day might look like we're going to do 2 properties that we've taken on. We're going to do 1 review that we've had come in. We're going to do 1 piece of content. Could be a little video, could be a little snackable bit of content, could be an article, but we're going to mix it up. We're not just going to go one day it's all going to be property listings. The next day we'll post a couple of long form content pieces. The copy cadence, the rhythm is what you're after as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I think, you know, something else just came to my mind there was that all these different platforms are slightly different. So they all have their own culture and sort of ways that content should be presented. So you might have those one bit of content, but if you're going to put it into an email, that will look different to if you're going to put it on Facebook, or it should do. So on social media, for example, you should be asking people for their comments and their opinions, because it's all about engagement, you know. So you need to increase that engagement on your post. So you might make little tweaks at the end to say, you know, what do you think of this, or has this ever happened to you?
Another thing as well is drop the call to actions in. Don't just have one call to action at the bottom.
Yeah, throughout. Yeah,
2 or 3. You know, a third. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, it was just hope that gives people a bit of advice on that. And it's not that you have to, you know, be posting every single day. Sit back and have a look. Is your content consistently at a high level? And then that's where you should be aiming for.
Tell you what's pretty good. Instagram's good for this, is because you can go back and you can see all your posts in a very like tabular column format, and you can see if it's you've got, I don't know, you've used Canva for a couple of them, if it's a couple of personal ones, and you can see like the cadence, the rhythm of it. People like routine, people like structure. It makes them feel safe. It allows people to know what to look forward to. So picking up on Jerry's point, if you have, you know, Monday you always do X, Tuesday you always do Y, Wednesday this. It doesn't mean you've got to stick to it 100%, because if something comes up or can't post it till next week, obviously get it out. But in the majority, I think if 90% of it or 80% can be the same, sprinkled in with a few ad hoc stuff, people just get used to it.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a left field suggestion that wasn't on our little agenda. I just want, this is a quick one.
Go on,
what podcasts are you listening to at the moment?
I love Joe Rogan. I just think he's so good. I'm doing going to the back catalogue at the minute. So he's got Ice Cube on, so I'm going to be listening to that one.
Really?
Yeah.
I listen to that.
Yeah.
What about you, Paul?
At the moment, I'm doing a lot of training, so my podcasts are on hold at the moment, to be honest.
I thought you were going to say, I'm doing a lot of training, so I'm listening to Facebook gurus talking about podcasts. And like, oh.
Yeah, well, if I name these people, you probably won't even hear of them. But all my training at the moment, as you're touching on it as well, is AI and you know, that direction.
Can I make a suggestion to people, especially if they've got any Irish in them? No, actually, anyone can listen to this podcast. It's called the Blind Boy Podcast. And a friend of mine made a great point. He's a sports coach, and he said he'll often listen. He said you can get obsessed by listening to podcasts that are to do with your job if you're passionate about your job.
Yeah, it's an issue.
You know what I mean? So you could be, you could be marketing, JP could be management and estate agency. He said you get obsessed, and you kind of then get into this. I've heard that idea before. I've heard that idea before. I've heard that idea before. But if you branch out and you just take some, Joe Rogan's a good example because he does have such diverse. But if you listen to this Blind Boy podcast, he's an Irish fella. I'd say he's a genius. And I really do think he's probably one of the smartest people I've ever listened to, and breaks things down. But it just gets you thinking about, how can I apply that to business, or how can I apply that to life? Or, wow, I didn't realize the importance of that. But JP, you were talking about consistency. He's in one of his latest podcasts, he talks about birdsong and why humans find it so reassuring. Part of it is because there's a pattern to it, and people like patterns. They're like, oh, I know where I am with that. Evolutionary, when we were in the jungles or the forests of Africa, it's sort of like our very first ancestors. When the birds stopped singing, that's when you thought, oh shit, there's a lion. And then, but he expanded. I can't do it justice because it's long form and it's an hour and a half. But if you get a chance, just check it out. It's a bit crazy in parts, but well worth a listen.
The Blind Boy Podcast.
The Blind Boy Podcast. To sort of set the tone, it's an Irish fella who's got a plastic bag on his head. It's worth a listen. I've said it to Tom McGee. He's ignored me, so I'm putting it out there.
I'm not speaking to Tom McGee. He made a very frivolous comment about me being 50 and too old and unfit the other day. I even said, don't bite, don't bite. So a little bugger. I'm not happy with him. He's off my Christmas card list. Is Stato.
Yeah, I noticed he done it from down in the northwest. He's nice and safe. It is not all cubby hole.
Yeah, I'm going to go to your move anyway. I'm going to get him.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, guys, we've been on for 42 minutes.
42 minutes.
Want to say thank you to everybody, and join us next time on the Three Amigos.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.